Nilesh, are you able to change the settings, and do you want to check your mic and if the camera is working?
Hello. Yes, am I audible now?
Yes, you're audible. Hello, sir. Hello, Mr. Chetan, sir. It's good to have you here.
Yeah.
Nilesh, we can't. Yeah, yes. I think now
Okay.
it's working. Yes,
Yeah.
sure. Good afternoon, sir. Do you want to check if your audio is working as well?
I think so. You
Yes, sir.
can.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
clear here. Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon, Swaroop. Would you just like to quickly check if your mic is working before we start the session?
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
It's clear from us. Yeah. Thank you. So we can start the session. And a very good afternoon to all of you here. And welcome to the 6th online workshop of the India Cycles for Change Challenge. I am Aditi Subramanian, an associate for urban development at the Institute for Transportation and Development Policy. It is a pleasure to welcome all of you, senior officials, engineers, project management consultants, community partners, and even everyone who's attending now from YouTube to the 6th online workshop of this challenge. Today, we will be in conversation with cities on their learnings from the implementation process. We will also be focusing on how cities can develop the different components for the scale up strategy and also look at the submission templates for the stage 1 deadline. The agenda for today is as follows. We have with us Mr. Rahul Kapoor, Director of the Smart Cities Mission, who will deliver the introductory address. We will also then discuss, as we have with us, we have officials from Karnal, Pimpri Chinchwad, and Rajkot on their learnings from their design and implementation work. This will be followed by the presentation of the day on how we can develop the scale-up strategy and an explanation of the stage 1 submission templates by Parin Visaria. And finally, we will end with a question and answer session. For everyone here, participants and panelists, feel free to chat in the chat box, but please address all of the messages to the all panelists and attendees option. The second thing is to type all of your questions. It is an interactive session. Please type all of your questions in the Q&A box. We will then bring these up in the Q&A session. And finally, if you have a question that you like and you want it to be answered, you can also upvote it to bring it to our attention. So to very quickly start and to give an introduction summary of everything the cities have been doing, I'm just going to take you through all of the exciting initiatives that we've been seeing from cities. To actually, they've been creating fantastic design solutions, but also been really engaging with the community and building support. So in a nutshell, what we've seen is that inclusivity is a very strong component of the challenge itself. And cities have really worked towards this. They've included women as a core member on all of their teams, but have also included diverse, vulnerable user groups. The second thing that the cities did was to actually roll out a perception survey. And this has actually registered a record number of responses. We have over 57,000 responses that have been collected across the country. And all of this has also been featured in a lot of national newspapers and, built support and momentum.
Aditi? Sorry, Aditi, we've lost you. Can you hear us?
Angi, do you want to take it on?
Yes, sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, like Aditi was mentioning, we've had a record number of responses on our surveys. So we've had 57,000 responses collected across the country, and cities have also identified their pilot locations. There are 370 kilometers that have been identified for the corridor pilot length, and 210 kilometers square have been identified for the neighborhood areas. Yeah. So as cities have also completed their handlebar surveys, they have started to develop their designs. We've seen over 35 cities have already initiated their design process. We've hosted design discussions with many of you, and we love how with the rigor with which you are taking these designs forward and testing them on the ground as well. So 15 cities have started the exciting process of testing these designs on the ground. Here we're seeing Pimpri Chinchwad, Aurangabad, photographs from Nashik, Chandigarh, and you're also including a lot of citizen engagement initiatives along with this to get feedback on how the users are using these designs. So kudos to all of these cities for doing such a fantastic job. And of course, cities have also continued to build momentum through cycle rallies, cyclothons, like you're seeing the photographs on this slide, and like cycle maintenance workshops, and also online workshops and webinars and much more. So on that note, it's my pleasure to invite Mr. Rahul Kapoor, Director of Smart Cities Mission, to deliver the introductory address.
Thank you so much, Angi. So this is the 6th workshop on the India Cycles for Change Challenge, and a very exciting journey till now. And last week only, we heard our Honorable Vice President speak on an international platform with regard to the incredible changes that cities are working towards as part of the India Cycles for Change Challenge. And over the past few months, we have cities that have been focusing on designing their interventions and testing out the small stretches on the ground. And the photographs that have been showcased on each of these workshops, it just gives us tremendous amount of happiness with regard to the work that the cities have been undertaking under this program. Today we have more than 350 kilometers and almost 200 square kilometers that have been 300 kilometers and 200 square kilometers that have been selected as pilot stretches by the cities. And the cities have done an excellent job in building support from the citizens with over 600 articles that have been released in many regional languages about the progress of cities and the benefits of cycling. Now, just to share with you, in fact, how popular cycling has become. So I got very keen because our JS is now cycling to office, and even the other deputy secretary is doing something like 3 hours in a week at his age. I mean, he's nearing late 50s, and he does something like 3 hours of cycling, and that's like really inspirational and motivating. So looking at that, I thought I'll go and pick up a bicycle for myself, and it was quite surprising because there's actually no stock available in the market. If you're looking for a good bike, and you've certainly got excited with the India Cycles for Change challenge and decided to get a bike for yourself, then you will be in a tough spot unless you have some good contacts that city officials can probably help with. So it would be very difficult to get a good cycle. So of course, that's just the positive side of it. I think the way the industry has to respond to the Cycles for Change challenge by way of creating the right amount of supplies in the market so that consumers like us don't feel disappointed. Same way, our city administrators have a very important responsibility in creating the right kind of enabling infrastructure that would keep this non-motorized transport momentum going. And for that, we are very helpful for this whole support that ITDP has been giving to us. And of course, the kind of initiative that the cities have undertaken in this challenge, it's really, really awesome and inspiring. We have several examples from cities like Hyderabad, Gurugram, Nashik, Chandigarh implementing the kind of initiatives. I think it would be unfair to just name a few, but then we do have 3 cities today that would be sharing their experiences on this platform, and we are very happy to have Rajkot, Pimpri Chinchwad, and which is the third city today? We have Karnal.
Yeah, Karnal, sir.
Karnal. Okay. So we'll be listening to the 3 city officials, understanding from them that what has been their response to the Cycles4Change challenge and the kind of feedback that they have got from citizens and how they're trying to address it. We would have definitely seen a lot of interventions. Some have been successful, some not so successful. And that's the whole point. I mean, the Smart Cities Mission itself is an experimental lab, and I think we are waiting to conclude this whole challenge so that we know that which are the successful and demonstrable models that can be replicated in all the other cities. So over to the panel. I'll not take too much time with the introduction. So thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the introductory address. So, like you mentioned, without any further delay, let's head into the most exciting portion of today, the panel discussion between cities. So, we're going to be hearing from them about their implementation process, the learnings that they got from it, any challenges they faced, but also how they overcame that, in support with support from their community. And for this, I would like to introduce the moderator for this part. We have with us Ashwati Dilip, Senior Program Manager of the ITDP India program. So with us, Ashwati leads the Complete Street strategy, policy, and the projects work at the ITDP India program. And she has also been working with the national, state, and the city governments, providing them with technical assistance on sustainable and equitable urban mobility. We also have with us on the panel today the teams from these 3 cities. And I would it's my pleasure to welcome the panelists for this session. We have with us Mr. Shrikant Savne, Joint City Engineer, PCMC, and the team from Pimpri Chinchwad. We have Lieutenant Preeti Mohan, the legal officer for Karnal Smart City Limited, and Swaroop Mukherjee, urban transport specialist, Karnal. We have Mr. Chetan Nandani, Deputy Municipal Commissioner, Rajkot Municipal Corporation, along with his entire team. Welcome to all of you. I would also, before we begin, just like to request all cities to present for 5 to 6 minutes. This will be indicated to you through a buzzer sound. Over to you, Ashwati.
Thank you so much, Aditi. And I think, echoing the words of Rahul Kapoor, sir, it's been an exciting journey so far. And most of our cities, we've made plans, we've made designs of how we want to improve cycling in our cities. But the most important part of this challenge is how we transform this vision into actual action on the ground. And I'm sure, all of us know that this particular journey will have its own challenges, but these are challenges we must confront to transform our cities and collectively the entire nation into a cycling heaven. And one of the things that I'd really like to emphasize here is that these interventions that we are creating will not only make it safe for our existing cyclists, but for the new cyclists like Rahul Kapoor sir, who's now going to get a new cycle. And for millions of people like him, we will need to provide safe infrastructure so that he continues cycling, with his family as well into the future. So I would just say that please don't think about only your current cyclists, because sometimes we do hear that if there are cyclists, we will provide, segregated cycle tracks. But for the cyclists of future that we want to see, that is what we're all working towards. So it's fantastic. And let's move into our panel discussion. Firstly, I would like to welcome the team from PCMC, and then we will move into Karnal and Rajkot. So over to you, team PCMC. Could you kindly share your presentation? Thank you.
Yeah, good afternoon. As you know, Pimpri-Chinchwad Municipal Corporation, we are going to present on these 4 topics: the Pimpri-Chinchwad and its NNT, cycles for change, a change people aspire for, experimenting the pop-up lanes, and the NNT future of the Pimpri-Chinchwad. As you know, Pimpri-Chinchwad Municipal Corporation is a twin city of Pune, the educational hub in Maharashtra, located northwest of the Pune, around 140 kilometers away from Mumbai, the financial capital of India. The population of the city as per 2011 census is 17 plus lakhs, but now it has crossed 25 lakhs. The area under the corporation jurisdiction is 181 square kilometer. There are 3 planning authorities which deals this total area. One is Pimpri-Chinchwad Municipal Corporation, the urban local body. Second one is Maharashtra Industrial Development Corporation, and the third one is Pimpri-Chinchwad New Town Development Authority. It is a major industrial hub in Asia and having 6,500 plus industrial units in and around Pimpri-Chinchwad, as well as Rajiv Gandhi Information Technology Park is also hub is here in Pimpri-Chinchwad. The model share of NNT in city is around is 59% for walking and 18% by cycle. So Pimpri-Chinchwad Municipal Corporation, when entered in this India Cycle for Change challenge, has decided to develop 30 kilometers of NNT friendly stretch in urban as per urban streetscape projects and smart city mission. It has a functioning public bicycle sharing system in city, and the NGOs like Yulu, Leap, and Go Green Go Cycles are the partners for the public bicycle sharing in city. So, people-friendly infrastructure in Pimpri-Chinchwad, we have done a perception survey to find out which corridor is suitable for making the pilot in the city, and with this competition or this perception survey was done using our Smart Sarthi app as well as the social media pages of the PCMC, Facebook page of the PCMC. Around 1,456 citizens participated in the perception survey, and some of the takeaways from the perception survey are there was very low participation from the women side, and it was only 5%. 25% respondents said that they are regularly cycling, and 28% cycle users are once in a week. 10% respondents cycle to work. Actually, they are using their cycle for reaching to their workplace. The 4 major pain points or barriers from this perception survey we pointed out are, the first one is safety. 64% of respondents said that due to the high-speed vehicles, there is a fear of hitting. Then the obstruction of parked vehicles along the roadside is a pain point. It's 51% citizens responded to that. Traffic congestion is also responded by 51%, and parking for cycle is also a pain point, and barrier is a 45% respondent. So according to having perception survey, we have given 6 corridors in the city where we can easily plan the dedicated cycle track. All these roads are having width 45 meters or 30 meters. And the perception survey has got more preference to the Aund-Ravet road from Sangvi Phata to Sai Chowk. This Aund-Ravet road, where it starts, is a boundary of Pune city, and the Sai Chowk is a junction where other 6 roads meet there. So this is our pilot road, and the road number 1, 2, 4, and 5 are the neighborhood area which adjoins to this, and this is very useful because the IT engineers and workers who daily commute to IT park use this road. These are some photographs where we have meeting with stakeholders like Hinjewadi Industrial Association, Indo Athletic Society, PCMC Cyclist Club, PCMC Rendoneers, the Green Lane Foundation and our bicycle mayor, Mr. Ashik Jain, is with us. We had a meeting and had site visits to decide the pilot project in the city as well as the neighborhood development for the cycle tracks. Next, Mr. Ashik will take.
Hello everyone, I'm Ashik Jain. I'm the bicycle mayor of Pimpri-Chinchwad and also an urban planner and architect. So what basically happened is that around 1456 participants responded and they wanted this particular street, which is the Ravet Road, as their main pilot for the corridor. So the neighborhood streets, we actually had a discussion with a lot of stakeholders in the city. And as per their discussion, there were these 3 roads which were identified as neighborhood streets and which covered these 3 major important areas of the city like Pimpri Saudagar, Pimpri Nira and Wakad. So the idea of to select these streets as neighborhood streets and to select this particular corridor, what it did is basically it connected all these residential areas around Baner in Pune, Pimpri Nira, Pimpri Saudagar and Wakad to a major industrial area, IT hub of the city, which is Hinjawadi. So these are the different streets. This is the main pilot corridor, and these are the 3 neighborhood streets. The cumulative length of all these streets is around 17 kilometers, and to have cycle tracks on both the sides, also bicycle pop-up lanes on both the sides, the total length of the bicycle tracks will be somewhere around 34 kilometers. And we also came up with different strategies for different roads, like it could be painted plus segregated or just painted where the road width is limited. So we also had this handlebar survey. So a lot of people, like 25 people participated in the handlebar survey. We divided these 25 people in 5 groups of 5 persons each, and they took a ride on 5 different stretches of the city, and we came up with different pain points for those particular streets. And we categorized the issues in 4 categories. So this is the Ravet Street. This is the current situation. So what we first tried to do is to decide the edge of the NMT versus the vehicles. So where do the vehicles stop and where does the NMT start? So that's the first line that we drew. And after that, we had 3 lanes of carriageway or MV lanes, and the remaining width, which is around 6.5, actually fluctuates between 2 to 6.57 meters. And that entire stretch, we called it, we were very skeptical, and we called it the NMT zone. And we did not call it a cycle zone or a pedestrian zone or anything of that sort. We just called it the NMT zone. And there were a few activities also in the NMT zone which were to be taken care of. So these were the drawings that we produced. And everywhere, like we defined the, we had segregated the NMT zone in 3 parts. The multi-utility zone, which ranged between 0.8 meters to 2 meters, the cycle lane, a pop-up cycle lane, which is around 2.2 meters, and a footpath which varied between 2 to 4.5 meters. So that was the basic strategy, and we came up with these drawings. And the basic items that we were considering when to come up with this intervention of pop-up lanes was traffic cones, a few planters, cycle parking wherever it is required, and wherever we can have cycle park wherever it is needed. So along with that, we also had some other BOQ items like thermoplast paint, cat's eye, to ensure the safety of the cyclist. So these are a few images of the experimentation of the pop-up lanes that happened on Ravet Road. So what we had done is basically this white dotted dashed line that you can see is the edge that we decided that this is the edge which will divide the MV lane and the NMT zone. And what we did after that is we came up with these 3 zones, like the multi-utility zone, which could cater to a lot of activities that are happening on the streets, like street vendors and all of that, seating space if at all required in the future. So you actually plan everything beforehand is what the strategy was. Then the cycle track, a clear cycle track, which is around 2.2 meters, and the pedestrian footpath, which is wide enough so that people can comfortably and safely and conveniently walk. So this is what happened after that is that the width of that the NMT zone kept fluctuating, and there was a lot of people started calling us and asking us that why is the width fluctuating. So this is just to demonstrate a small stretch. The entire stretch of road was around 4 kilometers, and including NMT zones on both the sides, it was 8 kilometers. So what we did is we selected a 2-kilometer patch on that road, and we started defining what all these three areas, these three zones could be within the NMT zone: the multi-utility zone, the cycle track lanes, cycle lanes, and the pedestrian lanes. Irfan, my colleague, will continue now.
Yeah, hello everybody. This is Irfan from New Era Infotech, and we have got associated with PCMC to promote cycling basically. So the project what we have come up with PCMC is Go Green Go Cycling, and this Go Green Go Cycling is an ecosystem to cultivate cycling culture in across cities to keep cyclists keeping cyclists at the core. So what we realized initially when we were working with the corporation here, people aren't really comfortable, taking up cycling. So we thought of taking a survey. We took a survey individually from our end of around 1,800 people, and this is how we came up with some of the points that we could come up. Like the first question we asked was how we are going to excite every individual to take up cycling. Then how to make them keep continued cycling. So we came up with some features that in this program, like what would be the most important things that a cyclist want. Through a survey, we came out that cyclists need lifestyle interventions like exercising and food and nutrition. Then they need cycles on rent, because if a person wants to cycle, they need.
Excuse me, sir. Sorry. If you could take 2 minutes to
just a minute.
Sure. Thank you.
Then the other feature was safety of the cycles. Safety lanes for the cyclists. Then how to incentivize to keep them, cycling. And then working with the government agencies, like we were working with this with the PCMC. And all of this could be managed with a web application and a mobile application. And during this C4C challenge, we came up with a cyclothon on the occasion. Cyclothon on the occasion of Gandhi Jayanti. That was on 1st October. We did it. Around 600 participants were part of this cyclothon. So we did it for cyclothon as well as walkathon. So collectively 600 participants did participate here. So these are some of the photos here. Then a lot of media coverage took place here with for the cyclothon event. Mayor was present there. Commissioner sir was there. And then these are the and this is our Honorable Commissioner sir is also a good cyclist, so we've had some cycling rides, morning cycling rides, Sunday rides with sir. So I just want to say that Kapoor sir even have a partner here in PCMC. Our Commissioner is also a very avid cyclist as well. And that's it. Thank you from our side.
Yeah, thank you so much, Team Pimpri-Chinchwad, for sharing all the work that you've done so far. Now, I think one of the most important things that you had shared is the whole concept of testing, learning, and scaling. We must always understand that when we do try out, we may have challenges, and it's important for us to learn from it and then improvise it going forward. So my first question to the team is that you did mention that you tested out an 8-kilometer stretch, and then now you are revising and you're refining your design and testing out a 4-kilometer stretch. Could you very quickly share maybe 2 to 3 important learning that you picked up from your first test that you're going to refine in the second test?
So what basically happened is that we put up thermoplastic paint, which was a dashed line, which was not a continuous line. So that happened. And what happened after that is that people started questioning, since the width of that the entire NMT zone kept fluctuating. It was somewhere it was 1.5 meters, somewhere it was 6.5 meters. So people were not understanding that why is there not a continuous cycle lane if we are doing everything for cycles. So the basic idea there also was that you need to demarcate the NMT zone, you need to streamline the traffic, and whatever is remaining is for NMT. So that is what was a learning, that people will start asking you all this question, and just to demonstrate what could happen and what all activities come in that NMT zone. We took a stretch of 2 kilometers, and we just got some lime putty paint, from the local hardware shops, and we just got a few paint brushes and then marked all of that could happen on that in that NMT zone, and that is how we actually resolved that particular doubt that the people have.
Sure, thanks, Ashik. So you've highlighted the importance of even testing before you actually roll out a full-fledged plan itself. Thank you so much for highlighting that. And the next question that I have for you is, what are your next steps? So you have created, you've tested it out in 2 kilometers. Now you've also moved on to 4 kilometers. How are you planning to expand as the next step? Because for an entire corridor that you had initially planned, your 8 kilometers.
So what the basic idea is for this Untitled Street, we need to have a refined design strategy ready in this particular stretch, so that it is easily replicable for the other streets. So after this, we have around 13 to 14 kilometers of streets with almost 28 kilometers of cycle lanes that are going to come up, or NMT lanes that are going to come up. So just to ensure that everything happens correctly, what we are going to do is we are going to, in the next week, in the next 10 days, we need to demonstrate it on Untitled Street, and then we need to take it ahead to the other parts of other streets, other neighborhood streets.
Sure. So thank you, team PCMC, and let's look forward. We will come back to you for questions once we finish hearing from the other cities as well. So now moving on, it's my pleasure to invite Team Karnal to share the work that they've been doing in their city. Over to you.
Thank you, Ashwati. Hi, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Swarup, and with me, Lieutenant Preeti Mohan, our legal advisor to KSCL. To start with Karnal, I just wanted to, these are the main points that we're going to discuss today. Before we go into the details, we just go through the background of the city, what we have already done before in 2018. And the trial run that we are working on for the last 6 months, it is successfully we are working on the trial run. And then what is our proposal for the cycle track that we are going to propose in the city. And we also mentioned the cyclothon event that we have recently conducted. To talk about the background, the city in 2018, when the smart city proposal was under process, that time only around 300 meter stretch of road in Karnal from Agrasen Chowk to Dr. Ambedkar Chowk. We already created a cycle track both sides of the road. That track is already there since last 2 years, and it's on the paved pedestrian pathway, which has a level difference of around 6 inch to 9 inch from the road level. However, that because of so many other reasons, is not very successful in that sense. If you can see, this picture shows the cyclists are still moving on the road, but on the road itself, not on the footpath where it is the cycle track was earmarked. Then another thing is we had Sanji Cycle, which is a public bike sharing system in Karnal since 2018. That is also operational right now. It started with 250 bicycles, and we have around 16 docking stations inside the city. However, again, the enthusiasm about the people is not very much supported because of two reasons. Number one is the charge that we have to pay, the user charge. The second one is the provider, the operator itself says that there are a lot of pilferage going on. So these two reasons maybe, but still the thing is operational right now in the city of Karnal. After judging all the enthusiasm of the people and and the supportive administration of Karnal, we managed to initiate another fresh trial on a major road, which is called the Baldri Road from Aggression Chowk to Gitadwar. It's a stretch of around 2 kilometers. It's a well done, recently developed 6-lane divided highway with paved shoulder, 2-meter paved shoulder both the side. So what we started working on, because it is not us only, with the contribution from the social civic societies of associations, the Municipal Corporation of Karnal, district administration, and most importantly, the Karnal Randonneurs and the Royal Cycling Club of Karnal, their representatives, all together, we had a representation to our administration. And with the help of our DC sir and the SP, Superintendent of Police of Karnal, we successfully closed down this major road because of the traffic volume in this road is not as high as it has to be for a 6-lane highway, a 6-lane road inside the city, around 22,000 PCU per day, annual average daily traffic, which is very low for a 6-lane road. So what we did is one side of the road we closed during in the morning hours, 2 hours in the morning from 5:30 to 7:30, and in the evening hours 5:30 to 7:30. So we closed that road, and people are spontaneously using this road still today for cycling and walking purpose. And of course, there was some initial complaint, not for the morning time, but yes, for the evening time, there were some calls came to the DC office and our KCL also. But it was, we had a discussion with them, with the other stakeholder also. And because there are other parallel routes also for this road, so we managed to resolve those issues. And if we talk about the major concern of the cyclist till today is the safety, because most of the cyclists, those who are amateur or they are going to work from their home to work, their main concern is the cycling in a mixed traffic lane, where the speed of the vehicle is very much during the daytime. And another thing is the reason why this footpath, the cycle track on the footpath didn't work out that well is because there are wrong side driving on the footpath, the two-wheelers mostly. They use the footpath. And then another issue is parking of the car on the footpath. That is also very rampant here in the cities of Karnal. So these are the major points, the major issues that we faced with the discussion with the end users. This is the picture of the stretch that I'm talking about. Is a 2-kilometer stretch. It shows here there is a temporary barricade is put in this entry of this road. However, the other side of the road, which is 4-lane plus paved shoulder, which is effectively there are 4-lane on the other side. So police used to control the traffic, both two-way traffic on the other side of the road. So the traffic movement is still there, but today at 7 o'clock, this is the scene there. People are, most of the people, young people, they're using this as a cycle lane, and old age people, they're using it as a walking area. The major point here is, again, they are very happy because it's safe. There is no traffic, no other disturbance. So getting a cue from this trial that we have done here, we formulated a project on this same road, Baldri Bypass 2 kilometers. It is a combination of a cultural street along with a cycle track. Right now, if you see the lower bottom left picture is the existing site, is the footpath, and there is a paved shoulder here. So what we proposed here, and at the end of this stretch, there is Srimad Bhagavad Gita Dwar, which is, the theme of Karnal and its connection with Kurukshetra, and the basic idea of the land of Karan those things are a kind of, it's a theme of that road. So it's already there. So we created a cultural corridor here. And what we did exactly is fencing the wall, which is the existing wall is like a barbed fence there. This other side of the road, this area is a forest land. So we cannot construct anything there. So what we are doing is we are redoing the barbed wire to a chain link fencing. And with this chain link fencing, will be having a green cover with the creeper plantation there. And in 6 or 7, 8 locations, we'll have a plain wall for around 20-meter long, where we will use the surface for a drawing, thematic drawing based on Karnal, based on Mahabharata, Karan, those things. And at the same time, we'll use the paved shoulder part as a cycle track, which is a NMT lane. We can call it NMT lane. We will use what we suggested, that we will use a lane delineator at the distance of say 1.5 meter to 2 meter distance. So by that we will use the paved shoulder path as a cycle track. The good part about this is there is no level difference as such, but in case of emergency, this delineator have some gaps also. They can park the vehicle in case of emergency. Otherwise, it's a clear demarcation of the separate NMT lane. Now, this project and construction.
Request you to wrap up in a couple of minutes.
I'll take just 2 minutes. Yeah.
Sure.
In the same way, we also had a detailed survey of the entire city, all the roads and what are the traffic level, and also the number of cycle moving. Here, there are 2 types of cyclists. We have recreational cyclists who are going for fitness and all, and the other one is the cyclists, those who are going from home to work. So if you consider their numbers are significant, 2,000, 2,500 numbers of cycles are there in the major streets that we found out all throughout the city. Then from that queue, and with the help of the local consultation, the area we cover is mostly the residential area. We are touching the college, the students community, we're touching the schools and offices, office complex. Then we formulated this network, this square network, which is covering both part of the city, both side of the National Highway 44. So we in line with that, we also conducted this Cyclothon 2020, which is through this route only, where we are proposing a cycle track in coming days. We are going to propose that cycle track there also, using the paved shoulder area. That's the same way that we have done in Balri bypass. This is a picture of the cyclothon that we recently conducted in the month of November. It was attended by more than 250 people for all different age group, and from the students community, from the coaching, the professional cyclists are staying here in Karnal. So we had a very good response from the people. We are hoping that we will be able to manage to actually implement some of this around total around 15 kilometers of cycle track in the city. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Team Karnal, for sharing your presentation. So I have just a very few quick questions. You had mentioned that can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sure. All right. Yeah. So it was interesting to see the trial that you've done in the 2 kilometers. But we noticed that you've done it in the morning and in the evening. But to promote cycling, you would need to have cycling infrastructure through the entire day. And do you have any thoughts on how you are, what your next steps are to ensure that not only these 2 kilometers, and like you mentioned, the extended network of about 15 kilometers are tested? So what are your next steps towards this process? And also the other question, which I'd just like to ask in line with this, is that you had mentioned how the 6-lane highway is really not essential because of the low PCU count that you do have, but your design still constrains the cycle corridor towards the the 2-meter shoulder space that you have? Are you thinking of, because in your testing you're actually allowing cyclists to ride on one entire half of the carriageway, but in your longer term plan you are shifting them to a narrow shoulder space. Do you have plans of widening that further, especially because that much of space for vehicles is not essential, is what you had highlighted? So looking forward to hearing.
Yes, number one is yes, there are provisions of expansion of the cycle track. It's now right now it is 2 meter in our proposal. Actually, it is under implementation process, and to maintain the safety of the road, because it's a free kind of highway inside the city. It's actually going. It's connecting the highway with the city. This last 2 kilometers, the speed of the vehicle is very high. So we are using tabletop crossing at around 4 locations to come down. The traffic calming implementation is already implemented, and then yes, there are other proposals also. Once this project comes in picture, then maybe in future there will be some vending zones on this footpath. So naturally, if that comes, then again the footpath will be expanded, because as you rightly mentioned, the amount of traffic that we survey, as per the survey that we conducted in the last year, 2019, it's 22,000 is very less for a 6-lane road. So we can easily take up some of the space. Although it is, it's maintained by PWD, we can always have a dialogue with them. It's a departmental consultation, and we can definitely we are keeping in that provision open for expansion of an empty lane.
Sure. Thanks for that. I mean, we really hope that you would give a wider cycle tracks for the cyclists of Karnal. And you had also mentioned about the issue in the current cycle track of wrong side driving as well as parking. So what are some of the measures that you're actually taking right now to ensure that doesn't happen in this extended and expanded network that you're planning?
Yep. First of all, footpath and cycle track, which was in the same level previously done. What happens is, even with the bollards are generally during night time it is broken or taken off, so that to get access to the 2-wheelers. In case of a road like a 6-lane road that we are talking about, there is no need for the 2-wheelers to go to that only this 2-meter wide road. So they have plenty of space for 3 open lanes for them, all kinds of motor vehicles, and this is additional space. So it's not used at all. It is used by the temporary vendors using their carts. Right now they're there, but that can be regularized. What I'm saying, instead of putting the cart on the paved shoulder area, that can be done at the end of the edge of the paved pedestrian pathway. So that can be expanded. So that question will not come here in our case. Secondly, the parking is the requirement where there is some use, the land use, even if it's of office or commercial or residential. Actually, this road is selected because both the sides there are institutional land. One side it is NDRI, other side is ICMR, the Paddy Research Institute. So there is no such requirement of parking as such, but still we have a provision of parking around 15 to 20 parking spaces at the middle of the road. So we are taking care of that also.
Sure. Thanks, Swaroop. It was great hearing from Karnal. Now let's move to the next city, and I'd really like to invite the team from Rajkot to share their work in the city.
Thank you.
Thank you, Swaroop. You want to stop your
Yes, I will, yes.
Team Rajkot?
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. Rajkot, as we know, is a city, medium-plus city located in western part of Gujarat. We made an investment of cycle track way back in 2012. and it was a 10.5 into 2 kilometer stretch. But somehow the cycle track was never used. In fact, the BRTS corridor was much more successful with a very high ridership. Also, we had a very good transit-oriented development along the BRTS track, but the cycle track never developed. We even tried to do a couple of cyclothon events, and each event had a participation of more than 2,000 for 4 to 5 years. But still, that did not make cyclists use this infrastructure. We again started a very rudimentary cycle sharing project way back in 2015. And that was a very modest in-house app and a few bicycles. People were using those bicycles, but only for hygiene, means health, not for commuting to work. So probably this whole infrastructure was waiting for some catalyst, and probably Cycle4Challenge again gave us that opportunity to again rejuvenate the investment. Next. So this is corridor. We had a handlebar survey. I'll keep it very brief. All cities have done it. We know it well. Just to add enthusiasm to the cyclist, the commissioner, myself, the CEO, other deputy commissioners, we all joined the handlebar surveys, not once but many times, and we identified the issues, which again are very well known throughout the country: encroachments, low visibility, there is poor lighting, crossings, cars being parked on the track, all those things. So enforcement was a major issue. Next. Again, this is a bit scientific agenda. Like now, we had a priority of actions where which part needed a more stringent action, but this is just for an internal purpose. Next. Again, cycle track repair activity, cycle lane marking, we are doing just like other cities. Just for sake of brevity, I'll not repeat it. Next. Tree maintenance and authorized parking, again, for the sake of brevity, I'll not repeat it. Next. What we needed was some catalyst to really increase the use of bicycles in the city. The ownership of bicycles was rising, but they were not being used for commuting to work. So what we decided that municipal corporation will cycle to work every Friday. So since 7 weeks we have been doing this, and this will be the 8th week. In fact, we requested all the big establishments along the proposed cycling corridor to join us for cycle to work on Friday. In fact, apart from that, we even urged other citizens to cycle to work from wherever they are and wherever they work on every Friday. And initially, our response was excellent. Say, first week, second week, third week, it was great. But again, we understood that it started declining. First week, we were more than 500 riders. Then second week, it went down to say 300. Third week, it went to 100. So we again found out what happened, why people were not using it, and then we found there was a lack of motivation. Like only the officers or the senior people who used to cycle to work, they were being highlighted by the media, or probably they were getting all the kudos. Others were probably not. So we ensured that the bottom rung, say the class 4 people who were there, were motivated by their name should be highlighted in the media and all. Again, after 2 weeks, we thought of a strategy that we should be having some lucky draw every week. So now we gift a cycle every week to the people who consistently travel for a month. So there is a lucky draw. We gift a cycle to our commuter, that is to our employee. And there are some accessories also. So there is a safety helmet, there is a safety light, and that is really giving us the results, and that is again motivating people to work. We were really happy to find support from the other organizations like supermarkets, car dealers, mobile dealers, other organizations who are located on the proposed cycling route. And again, now they are shifting to cycle to work every Friday. And now we are trying to have some system whereby we can record their miles, and we can even incentivize them also. Though that job is a bit difficult, but we'll try to find some app like Strava or something which records their miles, and we have to ensure that they are again motivated. What I do personally is whenever I travel by car officially, other than Friday, whenever I see any commuter by cycle, I immediately get down from my car and I thank him for supporting our Cycle4Challenge. There is a small scheme which we had started. Now it is gaining attention. 2 years back, we started giving a subsidy of ₹1,000 to every new cycle bought in the city. Initially, there were very few takers, but now since this Cycle4Challenge, again, it has brought fresh enthusiasm in the city. Again, the constraint is, as Kumar sir said, there is a shortage of supply of bicycles in the city. In fact, there are all the cycle stores are almost without anything, no accessories. But soon, probably we assume that that situation will be normalized very soon. A challenge would be to integrate our walkability and nurturing a neighborhood project with this, because we understand the stakeholders are the same. Probably the stakeholders who are supporting for Cycle4Challenge will be probably supporting us for walkability and will be supporting us for the nurturing neighborhoods. So the extended time limit of this project again is going to help us to integrate all these projects for further simplicity. Thank you.
So I think you've brought to light one of the most important things as well, that while we do create the right infrastructure, it may be also important for us to look at what are the different kind of incentives that we could give to the citizens, such that they really take on to cycling and continue cycling as well. So you had run through your slides quite quickly, but we do have a bunch of cities who are looking at improving their existing cycle lanes as well. And so if you could share with us maybe 2 to 3 very key points that came out of your survey as to why that cycle track was not being used, and what are some of the the top 3 things that you probably changed in your current cycle track to make sure that it is more user friendly to these cyclists who you are encouraging right now?
Definitely. One was very poor light conditions. What we found out early mornings, definitely those routes were probably not safe. What we found is that since the tracks were not used, people were putting some stones or putting some drains on the track through the cycle track. And that was making that cycle track very unsafe. Like now you are riding and suddenly you find there is a pipe in front of you. You are riding and suddenly there is a portfolio in front of you. Again, we found that the plantations we had made were really cutting the vision, and it was again making it very unsafe. In fact, we never realized it unless we rode ourselves. And it was a very simple task to remove, trim down the trees, but it was very important. So cutting down the trees, ensuring that there are no potholes, ensuring that there are enough lights. Few of the crossings were encroached. They were used by some vendors, they were used by some tea shops. And what we found is that women were not using it because of the vendors and the crowds which were surrounding those vendors. So we had to have a very heavy dose of enforcement just to ensure that all those junctions and all those crossings were freed of all those encroachments, just to ensure that at least the women riders who were venturing for the first time or who were using it would find it safe to use, and they would find it dependable for use.
Sure, sir. Thank you so much for that. Because as much as we want to look at encouraging cycling, it's also important to see who might not be cycling right now or who might be cycling less. For example, women or our children,
Yes.
And how can we ensure that we put the spotlight on them, identify their issues and then resolve them? It's great to see. And another piece that I'd like to ask is also, did you have any challenges reaching out to other stakeholders like traffic police or anybody else? For example, because you also mentioned about parking being an issue for enforcement. So were there any challenges that you faced during the testing of your trial, and how did you overcome them?
No, the challenges were just internal ones. In fact, Rajkot, we are very fortunate that we have very good interdepartmental coordination. In fact, we have a very successful city surveillance project, CCTV project, which is again jointly done by municipal corporation and police. So we work almost hand in hand for such projects. So those internal departmental issues were never there. But the issues came from the local neighborhoods, the local vendors, the local shop owners, who always thought that it was a part of the road, or it was their parking, or it was a place where they can recreate. So such small issues came, but once people saw that better use was there, those hurdles were easily overcome.
Sure. Thank you so much, sir. So, as we come to the end of this panel discussion, I'd like to just very quickly speak to, share the space with our panelists about what your clear next steps are. So very quickly, if you could tell us what your clear next steps are, that would be very helpful for the other cities as well. So can we start with team Pimpri-Chinchwad?
Hello, yeah. So basically the next steps after this pop-up lanes of pilot corridor happens, we are going to shift to the neighborhood streets. And parallelly, what we are trying to do is we are trying to have an NMT policy and in place so that all that we are doing now could sustain in the longer run. So, sir, you want to share? There are also new initiatives that the municipal corporation is planning to undertake under the NMT infrastructure. So that's also there.
Sure. Thank you so much, Team Pimpri-Chinchwad. Over to you, Karnal. What are your plans now?
Yeah. Actually, the cycle track that we already started implementing and the proposed cycle track in the city are more or less, we have space there. But we also found out there are some bottleneck areas, the pain point, what you call it. So those areas where there is not enough space and the cycle track has to be in a mixed lane of traffic. So there we need intervention from the citizen and the cyclist group that we have. We have a very good team of cyclist groups and citizen representatives. With the help of their consultation, and we will try to do another trial run in those areas where there is no space. So once we are, because the first part is done, we are only left with the areas, bottleneck areas where there is not enough space in the road right of way. So if we are successful in that, then we finally, as I showed you earlier, that the entire 15-kilometer corridor in the city will try to implement. We have the other BOQ part is ready with us. Only thing that small area which does not need any financial investment, but it needs a people's support how to do it. So if we are okay with that, then we can go ahead and implement the rest of it.
Sure, Swaroop. Thank you so much for that. And over to you, sir, from Rajkot, Chetan Nandani, sir. What are your plans going ahead?
Yes, definitely. We'll be finalizing our pilot and the neighborhood project very soon. We have again 1 or 2 tracks which are again unused, like this one. So we'll be upscaling them. Since we have made Friday a commuting day by bicycle, the challenge would be to make the whole city cycle friendly, because now we cannot restrict ourselves to the specific cycle tracks. So we'll have to ensure that at least the junctions, the basic crossings are safe throughout the city. The nurturing neighborhood would be probably a cherry in the pie. I think people will love it. But the major challenge for us would be walkability, because cities like Rajkot, Tier 2 cities, where two-wheeler ownership is very high, and even recently we are finding ownership of cars on a very high scale. So there is it's a challenge to make people use mass transport or NMT. And again, we are upscaling our NMT network. We are upscaling our BRTS network. We are putting e-buses on the roads. We are trying to even put the last mile connectivity in place. Still, it is not there. So probably we'll try to integrate these bicycles with those last mile connectivity project. So
Sure.
what lies ahead is a very huge task, much bigger task than what we have done, and much more challenging too.
Sure. Wishing all of you all the very best in your applications for the India Cycles for Change Challenge as well. Thank you so much, all panelists, for joining us today. And I'm just going to take a couple of minutes to summarize what our learnings from today's workshop has been. So, yeah, moving ahead in the implementation process, as we've heard from PCMC and the other teams as well, it's very, very important for us to test our designs on the ground. So most of you all have identified your sites, you all have conducted your handlebar surveys, you all know what your pain points are, you'll have developed your designs. So initially, it would be really important for you to demarcate the area to be redesigned, conduct a quick trial run, just like the PCMC team had also mentioned. This will help you realize if there are any concerns with your designs and if it needs to be refined as well. We will share a guide. We have shared a guide on this front already. Next slide. And as you create your pilot intervention and you launch it, it's very important for us to build support for this particular intervention. And hence, we would request all of you to kick off this pilot through a launch event. The intention of having a launch event is to ensure that there's a buzz about this new intervention, to inform your citizens, to ensure that there's participation from citizens and to document their reactions as well. So this would play a very important role in ensuring the success of this intervention and for scaling it up to other parts of the city and neighborhoods as well. So you could spread awareness by hosting exhibitions, by ensuring that you host cycle rallies and races, especially if you want to promote it, you should promote it amongst your women and children, and you can have specific activities targeting this particular vulnerable stakeholder as well. You could host cycle repair clinics where people can bring their old cycles and repair it and then use them on these new interventions that you've had. You can have cycle training sessions, as well as, like we saw in the case of Rajkot, we could have a lot of local champions, both in Rajkot as well as in PCMC, where local champions like the local municipal corporation commissioner, the officials from the urban local bodies and other stores and business houses as well, really taking on cycling and promoting it amongst their employees as well. Next slide. as we do this through the entire process, it's very important to engage with the stakeholders to build their support. So there are various stakeholders like traffic police, resident welfare associations, shopkeepers, students, etc. So if some of your stakeholders are a little concerned about what is coming up, it would be great to inspire them by showing case studies of best practices from other cities. Show what your plans are. As you are developing the design, ensure that you have site visits and handlebar surveys with all of these stakeholders to understand the local context. So if the traffic police actually hears from from the cyclists on that route about their woes, they may be a lot more interested in responding to their requirements. If there are conflicts, ensure that you have meetings to resolve their conflicts. And during the process of testing itself, definitely bring all of them on board, assign roles to them such that they have a lot of ownership to the project that you are creating in their neighborhoods. Next slide. Now, testing it out is extremely essential, and we would say that it has to be segregated. So on the corridors in the neighborhoods, look at how you can increase their safety, etc. But it's very important to test and ensure that there's segregation. And like I said initially, sometimes cities do say that when there are if there are many cyclists on our corridor, we will then segregate it. However, what we would like you to keep in mind is that it's not just for the existing cyclists, but also for the cyclists that you want to bring on board, that you really want to encourage. And hence, always do segregate. In case there are conflicts, do conduct the trial runs for smaller stretches and discuss the changes on the site as well. Next slide. And through this entire process, very important for us to monitor and evaluate the impact of the interventions, observe and gather feedback from the users to measure the impact. We will share more details on how this can be done shortly, but this is very critical to show the impact of the current intervention, but also to build support for future projects. And in case you do hear from the users, like the way PCMC had said, where the users say, why is the cycle lane width actually increasing and decreasing, then it shows you that you need to have consistent width. And those sort of design changes can also be made, which is very important in the test, learn, scale approach that we are following. So thank you so much. And over to you back, Aditi.
Thank you, Ashwati. Thanks to all the city officials who joined us for the panel discussion. It was very engaging and gave us, I think gave all the cities ideas, but also learnings that they can take forward when they are implementing. We've seen how your implementation process for the testing of your pilot interventions would look like. But alongside, we also want to ensure that cities work towards a longer plan to ensure that in the long-term future, the city does become cycling friendly. So for that, we have the next presentation by Parin Visaria. Parin Visaria is a senior associate at the ITDP India program. He helps city officials across the country with guidance on policies, urban design and planning, and has also been working closely with the Indian Roads Congress for the last 2 years. He's also leading the technical team for the India Cycles for Change Challenge, and I will now hand it over to Parin.
Thank you very much, Aditi. Am I audible?
Yes, Parin.
Yeah. Could you share the screen? Thank you. So let's begin with the scale-up strategy. Next slide, please. So it is important to first note that the scale-up strategy is part of your stage 1 submission. And as Aditi very rightly pointed out, that the scale-up strategy is going to help you to make your interventions permanent and also to bring about a citywide change and the long-lasting transformation that we want to see in our cities. that makes cycling safe and attractive for all users. As part of the stage 1 submission, it is important to note that in order to qualify for the evaluation, there are 3 things that the city should work towards. The one, that is pilot intervention. Second, towards building support for cycling. And third, that is scale up strategy. The cities are already working towards trying out different pilot interventions, that is corridor and neighborhood, as part of the pilot interventions. The cities are already doing good work in terms of building support through different initiatives, events, programs that are encouraging different people to take up cycling. And finally, today we are going to speak a little more detail on the scale up strategy. The scale up strategy is primarily, yeah, next slide. Next slide, please. So the scale up strategy is going to include 3 key components. So the first component is cycle plan. The second component is NMT policy. The third being institutional setup. And we are going to deep dive into each of these components to understand what each of these mean, what the cities have to work towards. Next slide, please. So starting with the scale up plan, or the first component, that is the cycling plan. Now, in the cycling plan, there are 3 key activities that the cities are expected to do. So the first step is to draft a scale-up cycling plan for 1 year. So we are expecting cities to come up with a scale-up plan, which is a 1-year plan. The next step is to gather feedback from different stakeholders, which includes both feedback from different government stakeholders, but also feedback from other non-government representatives and other citizens. And finally, to support your scale-up cycling plan, the city should also prepare a budget plan, which includes funding and sources of investment that the city is going to plan for its scale-up plan. So let's further get into the detail of the first piece, that is the scale-up cycling plan. Now, the scale-up, Aditi, could you go back? The scale-up cycling plan is going to, the plan is going to include following things. So as part of your scale-up plan, the cities could expand the pilot corridor. So the pilot corridor that you're already working on, the neighborhood that you're already working on, you can expand the same pilot corridor. So if you have taken a pilot corridor of 5 kilometers, you can stretch the same pilot corridor for another kilometers to make sure that the entire corridor is safe. Similarly, the pilot neighborhood that you have chosen, you can do more interventions in the same neighborhood to make it safe. Additionally, the cities can consider making existing sites permanent. So this becomes a permanent change through, now that you have tested it on ground, you can transform this into a permanent intervention. The third thing, cities can additionally consider additional sites, that is new corridors and new neighborhood sites that can further be considered for such a test learn scale with a test learn scale approach. And finally, you could consider different other desirable cycling interventions that make cycling attractive. So for instance, if you have a PBS, public bike sharing system in your city, you could expand it, or you can get more cycles out where citizens can access it easily, or you can provide more parking. Just make sure that the first 3 things, which are relating to the essential interventions towards this providing safe cycling interventions, ensure that your cycling plan addresses the first 3 for sure. Next slide, please. So as we begin developing our plan, let's understand what are the step-by-step process that can help you to develop a scale-up cycling plan. So the step 1 is to bring in learnings from this test. So since the past 3 months, test, learn, and scale has become a mantra for the challenge. And the cities are trying different things on ground with temporary ways. And there are different learnings that I'm sure all of you all must have listed down. So the idea is to concise all these learnings, and these learnings vary from different points. So that is the way you selected the locations, the way you went about designing with your team members, the way you tested it on ground. So what were the challenges that you faced while testing, and what were the learnings while you did that? The third, the kind of response that you received from different stakeholders while you were testing it on ground, or in fact, when you were even designing, was there the way the community engaged with the entire process? And finally, after it was built, what was it that the citizens liked about it? So the idea of this step is to clearly list down what worked, what didn't work, and this basically can help you with the scale-up plan. Next slide, please. The step 2 is that as you go ahead with the scale-up plan, it is important for you to come up with a scale-up strategy. And the scale-up strategy can be done using city-level data. Now, what this could look like, you can refer your existing data, such as which are the key destinations that the citizens are traveling to. So essentially, these can be commercial centers or key work centers, industrial centers that citizens frequently travel to every day. The next thing could be the prominent public transport have shared auto routes. These are the key routes which are frequented by these public transport routes, and you could possibly consider cycle routes, corridors along this, which will not only help support the public transport, but also decongest public transport, especially in the COVID times. You can also consider routes that are frequented by cyclists, or consider accident data in your city that is available, so that you can prioritize those streets to make it safer for cycling and other road users. You can simultaneously also look for different proposals that have been proposed, that have been included in Smart Cities mission, in the comprehensive mobility plan that your city may have prepared, or the master plan. Simultaneously, you can gather citizens' opinion. Many of you did try for finding a pilot location. So the same thing could also be applied here, where you gather citizens' opinion. Where do they want a new corridors to be, or where they could possibly think of a new neighborhood where the cycling interventions could be tried out. And finally, you can also host team discussions, focus group discussions with different stakeholders, such as urban planners or cyclists in your cities, to further understand which are the possible locations that you could consider. And this will help you to come up with a scale-up strategy. Let's take a quick look at an example from Malgudi and understand how this scale-up plan is basically evolving. So this is a city of Malgudi, which has a city center where people usually travel in the center for work-related trips. There is industrial center, which again, there are many citizens who travel there. The lines which are dotted are the public roads, and as part of the pilot stage, the cities tried out a pilot corridor, which is highlighted in purple. Next slide. Now, as part of the scale up, there's different strategies that the city could do it, and these are some of the suggestions. The city could do much more than that. So just to give you some examples that you could think of. So one is, since there are many people from the peripheries traveling to the city center, city could definitely consider some work corridors that help people to travel for the daily work trips and makes their cycle rides safe. Second is, they could consider cycling corridors along the public transport routes, which can support public transport, also act as a last mile connectivity, and also at the same time decongest public transport, especially in the pandemic times. The third one, you could also consider, as I said, connecting some key landmarks in the city where again people frequently travel to, such as these industrial corridor, or it could also connect some important institutions or landmarks in the city, such as bus stands or railway stations where the citizens travel to. And based on your context, you can think of different strategies. Now, when it comes to selecting different neighborhoods across the city, so there are different ways in which you can select additional neighborhoods in your city that you could make it safe for cycling. So you've already selected one pilot neighborhood. One way of identifying new neighborhoods is that you could crowdsource, you could roll out an expression of interest for the citizens to say which neighborhood that they would like to see it becoming safe cycling. So the residents welfare associations in these neighborhoods could be reached out to. The expression of interest form could be rolled out to them, and whichever neighborhood shows support, you can consider those as your additional support in new sites. And the form for expression of interest for the neighborhoods will share it with you all. Also, you can add in another filter to selecting the neighborhoods where the design interventions become feasible. When I say feasible, it is reached easily by different citizens. So you don't build up in peripheries where people cannot reach. So see the interventions where it is feasible, where the interventions one put, it is highly visible and citizens are happy to use it. And finally, the neighborhood also are in around the corridors. So there is a good network between the corridors and neighborhoods for a seamless travel. Next slide. So yes, here is the scale up plan. That the way it looks, it is a scale up plan for 1 year, which is a combination of both identifying new corridors, identifying new neighborhoods. You can expand the same corridor or interventions in the neighborhood to make them more safer. And at the same time, you could also identify other desirable interventions that you would like to have it in this plan. Again, ensure the plan that is well connected. So if you see in this plan, the corridors and the neighborhoods are abutting each other. So this is desirable for a seamless travel. But if you have other sites in mind, please, you can also consider that. And you can also try out different neighborhoods with different character, such as for neighborhoods with low income groups or neighborhoods that are highly industrial. So you can try out different neighborhoods as you like. And as you develop the plan, you can also phase it out in year 1. Next. As we have seen in the discussions before, that managing parking is an important aspect of providing safe cycling intervention, especially when the city is providing a protected cycle lane. Managing parking becomes an important aspect. And in all the discussions that we have seen, this has been an issue across all the cities. Hence, it is very important, along with the scale-up plan, you also prepare a parking management plan along the neighborhoods and the corridors that you intend your next interventions to be in. Very quickly, prepare a parking management plan. You clearly demarcate which are the parking, where the parking is allowed. You demarcate the parking spots and clearly demarcate where the parking is not allowed. So all the citizens are very well aware of it. Where there is an intense parking, charge for the parking, so you'll be able to control the demand there. Also, if there are unused off-street spaces, please shift the on-street parking there. Try to speak to the private owners, private malls, and commercial centers where the private parking could be accommodated. And you could also initiate your work on parking management policy. This has been extensively covered in workshop 4. So the presentation for that, for in detail about parking management, can also be looked in workshop 4 presentation. Next slide, please. As I said, that the test, learn, and scale approach is the mantra that we have heard constantly in all our workshops. Hence, as you develop a scale-up plan, it is you can also keep throughout the plan, be flexible about it. So in case the plan that you intend to do your next set of interventions on, by any reasons that you found out that the interventions are not feasible, or there are better sites that could benefit the citizens, please feel free to revisit your plan, and you can make necessary changes in your plan to accommodate those changes. So you can, along with your team, You can update the plan, and you can also update the timelines for the deliveries of the different interventions that you had planned. Now we go to the next step of the cycling plan, which is very important. So once you have the draft cycling plan, it is important for you to gather feedback from different stakeholders. Now these different stakeholders are both from government departments, that could be traffic police, representation from development authority, public work departments, and the ones whose opinion are very important to ensure this becomes a reality on ground. And also other non-government representatives that can help you with giving you the right feedback, such as cyclist group or any civil society organizations with an expertise in these that can help you to better evolve the plan. Next, please. In order to get the feedback from different stakeholders, you can do two things. One is you can put out the plan online. So everyone in the city could give feedback on the plan. And this is an online way of collecting feedback. So all the citizens in the city could contribute to it. The second one is offline method, wherein you can hold focus group discussions with relevant stakeholders. So as I mentioned before, you can speak to different stakeholders, both from government and from non-government members, who can help you to better evolve your plan. And simultaneously, you can also inform the citizens and gather feedback through publishing the plan in newspapers, so the citizens are aware and they're able to contribute it. The next step, the step 3 in cycling plan, is to identify funding sources. So along with the cycle plan, we also want you to have a budget plan for the cycle plan that will help you to make this implementable in the stage 2. So here the idea is to initiate budget plan, and the city could identify the process of budget and prepare one and try to put it for approval. So here there are two things to keep in mind. One is identify the expenditures that you might possibly incur. So there are 3 big buckets where you could possibly identify expenditures for the scale up. So one is as you expand the cycle network across the city. So the new temporary ways of doing the cycling interventions, this is the first bucket. So that's one. Second is making infrastructure permanent that will have a different set of expenditures. To give you an example, it will include things like hiring a designer on board and so on, which will be important for this particular step. And third one, along with great designs, we also want you to take care, maintain and enforce the infrastructure so that there is no encroachment due to parking, or the cycle tracks are clean for citizens to use. We will share with you a guidance on budget proposal, give you a framework as to how you can make a budget proposal, which can that you can put it for further approval from your standing committee or general body. The next important thing is that how you will obtain funds. So here are the different sources that you could identify. One is that you could use the funds, the municipal funds or the grants from the state government. You can also use the Smart Cities Mission funds. And additionally, you can also think of other innovative methods by which you can collect revenue. And this includes things such as parking charges. So at one point you're managing the parking, and at the same time you are using the same money to improvise the cycling infrastructure, and this benefits everyone in the city. The next, so just to summarize this, the cycling plan is going to have 3 main key activities. To draft up a scale-up cycling plan for 1 year, you will gather feedback from different stakeholders, both government and non-government members, and you will make a budget plan. You will identify sources of finance, and you will work towards the budget plan. You will work towards approval in stage 1. So it need not be approved, but you will work towards it. So that was the first component. Let's go to the second component, which is on NMT policy. Let's look at what the cities are expected to do when it comes to NMT policy. So let's see the first step. Now there are two things. One is that we will be sharing with you a policy template, and you can modify the template to suit your context, to contextualize as per your data that is available. And you can possibly also translate the same policy template in your language so that all citizens in your city can read, can understand and read it. If your city already has a policy, what you can do is you can revise the policy. So we can help you with guiding you what are the revisions. So you can compare with the template that we share and accordingly revise the policy. After you have a draft policy in place, again, the next step is to share it with various government departments for their feedback. It is very important that different other government departments are also on board. As we see, to bring this change, it is a collective effort that is required from traffic police, from different road owning agencies, development authority, public work departments, and also those government departments that are regulating utilities. So hence, getting all of them on board is very important. Their feedback is equally important, and update that in the policy. And the third thing is you share it for public consultation. So this would also give you, get you feedback from different experts, different civil society organizations, and also other citizens who can give feedback on the policy, and you can incorporate those policy. There are two ways in by which you can inform. You can share it online, and again you can inform the citizens about the key highlights of the policy through newspaper, so that they are aware about how the policy is going to benefit the city. And we'll be sharing the template shortly with you all. Next slide, please. And coming to the last component of the scale up, which is very important, the institutional setup. The institutional setup has two key components. One is creating an apex committee, and the second one is the NMT cell. The NMT cell, the idea is that the city starts working towards setting up the NMT cell. The formation of NMT cell can happen after stage 1, but some work is started with NMT cell. What does that work look like? I'll explain you very shortly. First, let's understand the apex committee and the different roles of apex committee. The apex committee is the committee of where it's going to oversee the different walking cycling projects in the city, whereas a NMT cell is the working team members who are going to ensure that this is delivered on ground. So the role of the apex committee here is to develop NMT policy. It will review designs of different walking and cycling projects. It will monitor how the development of these projects is coming along, and it will also ensure that there is participatory planning in the entire process. Now, coming to the role of the NMT policy, as I mentioned, it's a working team that is ensuring that this is delivered. So the key responsibilities of NMT policy cell would be to to plan, design, implement walking, cycling projects, to conduct capacity building workshops for team members and for others officials, then have stakeholder discussions. So organize stakeholder discussions with as the project goes ahead, and at the same time also communicate the benefits of these projects to different communications and outreach strategies. Now let's understand a bit detail about the apex committee and who are the different members as part of the apex committee. Now, apex committee is a team that consists of different officials from different government, different government departments, government representatives that are regulating utilities in the cities, and there are experts, they're non-government members, those are experts and civil society representatives. And this entire committee is headed by the municipal commissioner. So when it comes to government departments, representation from traffic police, public works department, development authority, public transport agencies are the ones who need to come on board from different government departments. Similarly, representation from different utilities such as water supply, electricity, telephone also needs to be on board for coordinated approach. So any works that you do, it ensures that all the utilities are in coordination with the design, and you ensure a safe cycling and other walking experience for the citizens. And at the same time, there is a participation required from different experts such as urban planners and civil society representatives that represent different stakeholders such as uh, street vending, women rights, and people into looking into ensuring infrastructure is universally accessible. And the key role of the Apex committee is to ensure a coordinated approach, a coordination between all these stakeholders to deliver to ensure good work is happening on ground. Next, the key steps in setting up a Apex committee. The first step is you define the role of the committee. So clearly prepare a concept, a proposal note to explain all the stakeholders, the intention of the Apex committee and their roles and responsibilities in it. Once you have this note, then identify the representatives that you would want on board in this committee. Once you've identified it, inform them about it, invite them, and you formalize the committee through a circular or an order. Once that is finalized, you make this as a public announcement, you make it public that such a committee is formed, highlighting its benefit, highlighting the purpose of such a committee. Through newspapers, you can disseminate this information through newspapers, social media platforms, and after this, you can conduct the first meeting where all the members come together, where you orient the whole purpose and how it wants to plan its next steps ahead. We'll share with you the note for the Apex committee shortly, so you're very clear on what the note looks like. Now going to the NMT cell. Now NMT cell, as I said, it's a working cell, and the key responsibilities of the NMT cell is to plan and design various walking, cycling, and the cell could also look at public space projects which are abutting the streets for better street public space designs. They can also monitor the work that are done by different design consultants and contractors that the team hires for different projects on walking and cycling. Now the NMT cell has two kinds of people in the composition. It will be a cell which will be set within the municipal corporation. The superintending engineer can be the head of the cell, and the cell can comprise of executive engineers, urban designers and urban planners who can help with the design planning of the streets. There's a draftsperson and there's a support staff. And the cell could also hire external consultants who can help with various specialized works such as project management or transport. You can hire a transport expert or a landscape expert, an engineering specialist, or a GIS specialist based on your requirement. So this is the NMT cell composition. Next, please. Now the steps to setting up an NMT cell, the first step is like Apex committee. The first step is to prepare a proposal for NMT cell. Now the proposal is going to include the roles and responsibility of the NMT cell, the staff that it's going to require, and the budget for the staff. So that's an important part of preparing such a proposal. So it will also include a budget. So in stage one, we expect cities to prepare such an NMT cell proposal, which they could further send it across for approval from the for standing committees or general bodies approval. We will be sharing with you the NMT cell proposal note, which you can edit it as per your requirement and further process it for approval. So that's stage two. getting it approved. It can also happen in stage 2. The third thing, after it's approved, you can start identifying the staff and hire the staff that you want to be part of the cell. After that, you can have your first meeting between the NMT cell and Apex committee to discuss how they would want to carry out the walking cycling projects in the city. And the fifth one is this cell could start preparing the plan of action, the various projects that it wants to start planning and implementing on. Next, please. So again, just to reiterate my point, in order to qualify for stage 1 evaluation, the cities are expected to do 3 things. Do pilot interventions, which you're already doing it. Test out one corridor, test out one pilot neighborhood as part of pilot intervention. Second is to build support for cycling. Again, different events, training programs that you have been already doing, keep doing that, and that will become part of your building support for cycling. And finally, the scale up strategy, as I explained, which is going to include 3 components: cycling plan, where you prepare a plan for 1 year, a budget, and initiate work towards the budget approval. The second being NMT policy, where you initiate work towards adopting the policy. We'll share with you the template. Third, setting up a Apex committee and as part of the institutional setup, and also initiating work on the NMT cell. And for both, we'll give you a proposal note, which will help you to process it for further approval from the standing committee or the general body. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Parin. Ashwati, if you could take forward the next section on the submission templates.
Sure. Thank you so much, Aditi. I think all the cities have been really looking forward to how is it that we can put together our submission and take this forward. And we even had a question today in our Q&A section as well. Next slide. Yeah, so what we want to really focus is that the submission format, the template itself would be shared to you very quickly, but the part A that you do need to put together are concise, crisp presentation. So we expect you all to create 3 separate presentations, one focusing on the pilot intervention. This is the most important part, and I would really nudge all of you all to start testing the pilots on the ground so that you can have a strong piece under this particular section. The next, and which really focuses on the scale up strategy, this is again very important. So Parin has already taken you through the cycle plan, NMT policy, and the NMT, the institutional setup that you would have in place. So what are the actions that you're taking towards this would be captured in the second presentation, and the third presentation would focus on the actions that you've taken for encouraging cycling within the city itself. Now, along with this, we're also, requesting you all to put together one 90-minute impactful, 90-second impactful short video, giving us an overview of what you've done so far. Now, like we said, in both these cases, we will share with you a process of how you can put this together, and both of these submissions are mandatory. Next slide. As we discussed, there are a lot of, processes which you will be, a lot of actions that you would be taking. So if there are official documents, for example, showing that the policy has been put out for public participation, if you'd like to share with us the details of your team, which is inclusive, etc. So all the different pieces of official documentation that you have, we would really encourage you to share it with us as additional files. And last but not the least, we also request you to share with us about 10 high resolution images of showing before and after, showing the real impact that you have created with these interventions on ground. Like I said, everything which is on a star is mandatory, and we will share template with you soon on the submission format itself. Next slide. So by the workshop 7, once again, please do test your pilots on the ground, learn from it, revise it, refine it, and expand on it as well. Initiate work on the scale-up plan, which is the cycle plan, the NMT policy, and the institutional setup, and continue your efforts in building momentum about the design and testing itself. Now, from now, we will share with you the presentation and workshop and the video of today's workshop, the workshop 6. We will also share with you the NMT policy template, the Apex committee and NMT cell proposal note, the expression of interest form template for selecting your neighborhoods in the scale-up strategy, methods to measure the impact of the interventions that you're testing out right now, and the submission templates itself. So thank you so much for staying with us, and our workshop has been extended by a bit. If there are some pressing questions, Aditi, we can very quickly take them.
Sure, Ashwati. Yeah, let me. So some of the questions came about on the scale-up strategy and the submission formats that we've shared. And one was, do all the selected neighborhoods in the scale-up strategy need to necessarily be connected, to each other or to the corridor?
Yeah, sure. So one is that, for encouraging cycling, it is really important that we do have a connected network. So it's preferable that we do have, neighborhoods which are close to one another. But at the same time, if you do have diverse neighborhoods across the city, because in the neighborhood, the importance is also about how people or citizens can cycle within the neighborhoods for short trips. So even if you do have them which are away from one another, that is also definitely fine if from your template you realize that these are neighborhoods who really want to improve their cycling infrastructure.
Sure. Thank you. The next thing, and I think, cities have been asking this quite a bit, is there a minimum number of kilometers that a city needs to select, for the scale up for them to qualify for the stage 2? Because we had said for stage 1, certain numbers, but is that there for the scale up components?
Sure. So each city is different in our country, and we've got a wide variety of cities with a wide variety of population. So I think with the scale-up strategy, what we do want you to do is that prioritize every your plan for the next 1 year. And there, like Pareen said, we want you to make sure that the current testing can be made permanent, but how can you also expand to other areas as well? So we would encourage each of you to be ambitious with the scale-up plan. At the same time, also think about what can be implemented in the next 1 year. So we do not have a number right now, but please be ambitious. Think about your own city area and population and chalk out your scale-up plan.
Sure, Shruti. And I think a last very important question about the NMT policy. Does it need to be adopted before the stage 1 submission? And just to clarify to everyone again, the stage 1 submission has been extended to the 31st of January of next year. We want to give cities more time to, test, but also work towards this. So would cities have to adopt it before the submission deadline?
Yeah, as Pareen already mentioned it as well, the NMT adoption of a policy may take time depending on the city. Some cities tend to be able to do this quicker than the others, and we are very cognizant of that. So what we would encourage all cities to do is refine the policy template to suit your own, with your own city's information and your city's ambition and vision. Share it with, the Apex committee that you have set up, so that this is a collective vision of all the different stakeholders in the city. Also share it with the public. So have, ensure that the refined policy template is put out for public consultation. So these 3 steps, which are very key towards the adoption of the policy, if you can get these 3 steps, that is what we would encourage you to focus right now. And of course, if you can get the policy adopted also and do, you're encouraged to do that. But these are the 3 steps that we are looking forward for our stage 1 submission.
Sure, Shruti. Thank you. So I think we come to then the end of the session. We also notice a lot of questions on the design, details. And we'd again like to point out that we have shared 2 guides on the design and the implementation process. We will share them again for reference. We've also noticed that, by asking in the WhatsApp group, cities are supporting each other with any answers that they may have. So please continue to do that and build relationships among yourselves. And we'll see you all in the next workshop. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.